Hi, friends, and welcome back to Podcast Barbie. I am Kier, and I am thrilled that this week's episode is all about travel. So, 2 days ago, I got back from my international modeling trip to Dubai. So, for those of you who do not know, one of my many jobs is I am a professional model and I travel internationally fairly frequently, at least once a year. I am international for that. I had skipped last year. I was supposed to do Paris Fashion Week in February. My birthday and dance had overlapped, so I ended up not going. But this year was Dubai, and I was there with ELJ Avenue. Designer Vaughn is someone that I am so grateful for. I met her about 3.5 years ago, and I have been with her. We did Milan Fashion Week in 2023, and that was in October. And then there was Paris Fashion Week last year and Dubai this year. And then our local, I've done New York Fashion Week with her and Charlotte Fashion Week with her. And she's amazing. And I'm eternally and forever grateful for her and our trips. And I was the model mom. So my job was to help everyone like pre-trip. So giving everyone packing advice, packing lists, making sure everyone knew where we were going, coordinating the condos that we stayed at, and ensuring everyone was safe and knew where to go. And the schedules for our shoots. We had 2 photo shoots, 3 different groups, and then on the last day, on Tuesday, we had a party, quote unquote party on a yacht, and it was just a magical experience. But I specifically want to talk about traveling abroad to a country that has a stereotype for not being human rights friendly, not being women rights friendly, not being LGBTQ rights friendly. And I went into this trip as someone who cares about people and is passionate about human rights and animal rights and humans in general. And this is a once in a life opportunity. How many of you can say that you had a week paid for in Dubai? I don't think any of you, right? I am so fortunate that I live in this life. I've put a lot of work and effort into being where I'm at and the connections I've made and the people that I've networked with to get here. However, I'm not going to pretend that this is not a once in a life opportunity. And I had originally said, no, it's not going to work out just time wise. And I don't know if I want to go to the country, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. Vaughn reached out. She said, I would love to have you on here on this trip. I had a couple of people back out. I think you should come. And then I ended up arranging to be the model manager / mom. And I'm so glad that I went. And so I'm going to walk you through the trip itself. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the people I met, the animals that I was with, the models I was with, the makeup artist and things like that. And just kind of go into a deeper dive into international travel as a female solo. Even though I did travel with many of the other girls on the planes, I was going as a solo person. And I want to kind of preface this by saying that I have the privilege of doing these things because of my life and my career. However, I recognize that it is a privilege. And I had someone who had messaged me while I was on the trip, and they were basically asking me why I would choose to vacation in a country that basically hates LGBTQ people. And I recognize that one, it's not their business what I'm doing with my life and what I use my money to spend on and all that. However, I wasn't there on vacation. I was there for work. I'm grateful that I was able to do fun things and explore while not working. So outside of the photo shoots, I was able to explore and went to the Grand Mosque and went to the desert and did a lot of fun things in the 4 days that I was full 4 days that I was there. However, even if I had gone there for vacation, I think it's really important that we take a pause and think about what we're saying to people. She eventually apologized for how she worded it and said that it was a quick jump for her and she shouldn't have said how she said it, and she apologized. And I'm glad that she saw it. And I did tell her I'm glad it was me who she messaged it to instead of someone who might have popped off on her. Because even if let's say I was on vacation, I'm on an international trip, 13.5 hour plane ride, and I'm having to read paragraphs of someone angry at me for going on a trip to a country they don't like, and I doubt did any research on, because we hear all these things. Okay, Dubai, because they read the Quran and they're Muslim and they must hate people. That is not what I experienced. I have a friend who lived there for 2 years, and she told me, she goes, Kiara, this is the safest country you're going to visit. I think you're going to love it. And I fully concur with that statement. It was so safe. I did not feel like at any point I was in danger. I think it's important to travel in groups, and I always told the girls to go with the buddy system. But I genuinely loved it. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of a little bit of the trip. And then at one point, I did actually talk with the tour guide that we had one-on-one and asked him all the questions. I asked him about the animals. I don't ride camels. Some of the other girls rode the camels. I sat with my camel. and I asked them questions about their experience and how they're raised and how they're cared for. And I approached the trip from a different perspective than some of the other girls. But I encourage all of you listening, if you are interacting with someone who is doing something that you might not agree with, don't go into it saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you would do this. Why would you do this? Approach it in, hey, I have seen your page or your brand as someone or something that is very XYZ, like very like inclusive, whatever you want to say. I'm curious if you could give me some more details when you get back from your trip. So do not make them do this while they're on their trip because it's extremely rude. But when you get back from your trip, I would love to pick your brain about what you learned. And I'm curious about your personal views on the country you visit. Or just keep your mouth shut. It's really not any of your business what people are doing. I recognize that for me, it's a little different because I do content, I do influencing, I talk about people. I mean, I run a podcast about women and rights and animals, and I run an animal sanctuary. So it would be very contradictory of me to like just pour money into a country that I don't agree with. However, I went into this trip knowing that beyond it being a job, I wanted to really learn. And I am grateful that I had that privilege and that I could have that experience because otherwise we just go into things with so many we have these ideas and we're so misinformed about the realities of the world. And I will say that obviously for a lot of Islamic countries that is not the case. Dubai is one of the few and our tour guide mentioned that. But I want to just make sure that I first prefaced this by saying just be kind. Like I know that's my like mantra for now for the rest of forever and for all my podcasts is just be kind. Like seriously guys, don't try to don't yuck someone's yum. Don't try to ruin someone's trip. Don't make it about you because at the end of the day the person that messaged me, they made my experience about them and their feelings and it negated why I was there. It negated my experience and frankly it was just rude. And she recognized that it was rude and she apologized and we're not close friends, but she's one of my clients and she ended up being really nice about it. And I just wanted to get on here and have that as part of it. That's not the reason why I'm recording the podcast. I was excited to record about Dubai in general, but I wanted to add that little caveat. Okay, so first day, I drive up to Charlotte. It's an hour and a half drive from Greenville. Park my car in Longton parking, and then my first flight is from Charlotte to Newark. And then out of Newark, we're going to be flying to Dubai. So I get to Charlotte right on time. I do not like putzing around. I do not like waiting in an airport. I think it's so boring waiting for boarding. So I thankfully have TSA pre-check that I've paid for. And so I was able to check in literally like 3 minutes in security and then I was on my way. And the gate wasn't super far away. Probably it was like a 7 to 10 minute walk. Get to the gate. A couple of the other girls that are coming on the trip, one of the models and one of the makeup artists, I meet them. I end up sitting next to one of the models. And I had the first experience was not a great one. So I was boarding group 3. So there's 7 groups, I think 7 or 8 groups, and I was number 3. And the agent through United had told us that they were splitting the lanes. So you could go through 2 lanes because they had 2 agents. So me and a couple other people go in the right lane and the other people are on the left lane. Well, we're getting up there and there's a family trying to check in their bag and their stroller. He then says, why are you over there? You need to come over to this lane. And we all go, you just told us to split the lane so it goes faster. He's like, no, y'all need to be over here. Well, because of that, I then am now behind a bunch of other people, and they say that the overhead bins are now full and we have to check our carry-on bags. Granted, I'm going to be on a plane for 13 and a half hours to Dubai. I specifically told everyone coming on this trip, don't check a bag unless you need to check a bag. Keep your carry-ons with you. Because I have had bags lost. I had a bag lost in South Korea. Thankfully, they brought it to the apartment that I was staying at. And it was like an hour and a half away. So the airport was really kind about that. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes you lose your bag and you're SOL. And so I was like, wait, I need to keep this bag with me. Like, is there any way I can, they said they wanted me to check it to my destination, which is Dubai. And I said, can I pick it up in Newark? Nope, you have to put it on the plane. That's policy. I'm kind of freaking out because all of my clothes, a bunch of things are in there. I have a heart condition, so I have an extra heart monitor in my bag. And they're like, well, you can move things into your backpack. They're rushing us onto this plane. I was getting ready to leave. I'm not about to open up my suitcase and transfer all my stuff into my backpack that I already had packed with things for the airplane, like my snacks and things like that. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just going to check this bag. And I had a little moment where I was upset and I was sort of crying and they wanted me on the plane, needed to switch seats because there was a family that wanted to sit together, which I didn't mind. So it ended up working out because I ended up sitting next to one of the models who I became really good friends with over the trip. However, I was distraught. I don't mind change. However, when it's an unexpected change that I don't get to choose, I'm not over the moon about it. But I am enjoying as a human that I am having to live life with grace and patience. And I did record the man being extremely rude to me because I asked him, I was like, can you tell me the policy? Like, why am I unable to get this at Newark? Because usually they'd get it plane side and you pick it up on the jet bridge. And he refused to tell me. And so I ended up recording the thing. And of course, when I get to Dubai, what do I find? Like my bag damaged. My bag is like caved in at the corner. Thankfully, I could still open it. But when I got back to the States, I ended up putting in a claim with United and they're sending me a new bag. But it was really just unfortunate. Like I already had you, if you've heard my earlier podcast about my travels with my service dog, that I'm just so over planes sometimes. And generally speaking, I have a really good experience with airplanes and with agents. And especially right now, I've been trying to give a lot of grace with TSA agents because they're not getting paid. They'll get back pay once the government reopens, but with government shutdown, they're not getting paid. However, United is paying their people. Those are not government workers. Those are plane workers with United. So I wasn't not giving grace. However, I also was like, you could be like, just be nice about it. Like he could have just been like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know it's really inconvenient. Unfortunately, overhead bins are full. Because when I got on the plane, air the attendant saw my background. She said, do you want to put it above? So there was definitely someone could have moved a couple things around and I could have had space above. I probably could have gone back and got my bag, but I wasn't about to start an issue. But I think it's in general just an interesting perspective to see people who don't want to give 5 seconds to talk about things or be kind. And so I'm working on the patience and the grace. And so I guess it was a good moment for me to have to check myself. And then my flight to Newark, we thought we were gonna have to rush. We ended up there was, I think, 6 of us together. One of the women who had a driving car, she ended up taking us to our gate and it was delayed by a few minutes because they were still cleaning the plane. So we had plenty of time. So it was nice. We all got to go get some water and some of the girls did a currency exchange. And so that was good. And then we met up with some of the other girls that were on our flight. There's probably like 10 of us on this flight all met up. And the flight was great. The flight to Dubai was great. I was in a middle seat. That was not great. However, the food was really good. So because I'm vegan, I had put it in a special request. Food was amazing. I was able to sleep a little bit. I try to sleep where the country you're going to, you should switch to their sleep zone, to like their time zone for sleeping. So I did a little bit, like I took like a nap at the beginning of the plane, but I wanted to stay up the rest of the plane because we were landing Dubai nighttime. So when we got there, it was fine. We were able to go check in to our condo. We had a little bit of a mix up with the condo. I had given them an address because we were in 2 separate condos, about 20 minutes from each other for one model group and the second model group. And so we ended up going to the first model group condo. We had to change to the second model group. And what's really cool about that is I'd gotten a little frustrated. I told the girls, I was like, hey, going forward, you guys need to, if I send you an address, please just listen to that address. And it had kind of rubbed some of the girls the wrong way. And one of the makeup artists specifically who was going to be staying with us, she got rubbed a little bit in the wrong way. So I was thinking to myself, okay, I don't want to come off as rude. I was texting our designer. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know there's been a little bit of drama, but we're handling it. We're getting to the condo. We're just running late. She hadn't arrived yet. She was coming the next day. And so I knew I didn't want to start the trip off wrong. So when we got to the final location, I was like, I went up to the girl and the woman, she's a woman. She's older than all of us. And I was like, hey. And she's like, hey, I wanted to grab you too. Like, let's just hug it out. And I was like, amazing. I wanted to make sure I connected with you because I was not trying to come across as like bossy or rude. She goes, no, you have the addresses for the condos and you did all this work of getting the condos for us. Like, I should have listened to you. She goes, we're all just tired. And I recognize that. And her and I ended up being really great friends. We did breakfast together. We like hung out together, went to the souk together. She helped me with I had to change my flight the last day because it was flying out the day after I was supposed to fly out and I had to change it. And so she let me like use her hotspot because I had run out of 5G internet. And so we ended up being really good friends. And that was a really pivotal moment for me to recognize the growth that I have done through my life. And I was really grateful that I was able to, I guess, just be a big girl and be an adult and suck it up and just like, you could do with one of two things. You could say, I told you so, you should listen to me, or, hey, I'm glad that you guys ended up finding the right address and that I was able to put it in and that we're here now. And I did option B and it was so much easier and I'm so thankful for that. And at the last day, when we had dinner with it was a smaller dinner with some of the girls, they all appreciated the hard work that I had done and they recognized that I was very humble with that and they appreciated the effort that I had done to make sure that the trip went smooth. And I was grateful for that. Okay, so first night, we get to our condo finally, we're able to sleep. We end up waking up at 11 AM. We had this plan to, like, go to the beach and go do shopping and then go to the mosque, and so we ended up just sleeping in, and then me and the makeup artist, who I absolutely adore, her name is Winnie, you should follow her on social media, Glam Muva, and she and I went and got breakfast and hung out on the beach. We got a day bed, and then one of the girls went for a run, and we all reconvened, and then we were going to the Grand Mosque. So this mosque was about an hour away, took an Uber, and there were, I believe, 6 of us that went together, and it was so much fun. It was just a really beautiful experience. I took some pictures. They are very, I don't wanna say controlling, but they're strict. So you have to be covered, your arms have to be covered, your legs have to be covered, and your hair has to be covered. And so I wore pants. You can wear pants as a woman. You could wear sandals. You're open toes as long as your, like, legs are covered. A couple of the girls had to it was, like, instead of like, the mosque was, like, next to a mall, so you could go downstairs and there's this big mall, and then you, like, take one of those conveyor belt things a couple of minutes away to the mosque, and so a couple of girls had to go in the mall and buy some extra clothes because some of them, it was, like, see-through, and you could see, like, the imprint of their under straps, and one of the girls, her arms were showing. Thankfully, I had prepared ahead of time, and I had sent them pictures of what you could and could not wear, and I understood it, like, it's being respectful, that is their culture, and you should be respectful of that, and everywhere else, we could wear whatever we wanted. There weren't strict rules, it was pretty much Western clothing, which I thought was really cool, and so I told the girls ahead of time, I said, when we were planning this trip in the messages, I said, "Plan to bring cover-up options, and if you wanna go somewhere that is more cultural, make sure you bring cover-up items, but also you're welcome to bring more Western civilization type clothes, just be respectful, like, don't wear booty shorts, things like that. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we're not there to get attention, we're not there to get stared at, and we do wanna be respectful of wherever you're going. So, we had a really great time at the mosque, got some beautiful pictures, and then, we were able to go back to our Airbnb. The next day was our photo shoot. So, mosque was Saturday, our photo shoot was Sunday. And we had an 8:30 AM call time, so I was the first model to do hair and makeup, and we met at the Dubai Mall, and it's next to the marina, and we didn't realize that you have to have a permit to shoot at the mall. So, it was my turn to get photos. We were waiting for Vaughn to bring the headpieces and the accessories, and it was my turn to do pictures, and we're down there, and here comes the security guard, and he asks the photographer. So, she had the photographer that had come from America, and then she had a photographer that was local to Dubai. And here comes the security guard, and he asks the guy who's local, who was not Muslim and did not speak Arabic. And he was like, "Are you doing these photos for business or are they for you?" And he explained he was hired to do them. So we get walked back. So we were on this. It was basically like a balcony, and it was overlooking the water. It was super beautiful. I posted some pictures. And so we had to get walked back, and then the photographer gives one of the girls his camera, and the security guard goes, "No, you need to bring that with you." And so he ends up messaging me and he was like, "Hey, I'm coming back. I was able to save the drive." Because Vaughn had gotten there and I told her, I was like, going forward, whenever you do photos, make sure that they can back it up to over the internet drive, because if you don't back it up, there went all your photos. Thankfully, we hadn't taken a ton, but it would have been really inconvenient. Then he went downstairs to the marina and we ended up booking just like a boat, a small boat for us to go do pictures. There was 4 of us modeling different dresses, and so we did the boat tour, which was super fun, and then I was not feeling, it was hot, so I didn't, at the end I was, like, nauseous. I'm still overcoming my nausea and jet lag, today, and so we went and got smoothies so I could, like, cool off, and then we walked back to our condo, and one of the girls thought we were going different directions. I was letting them lead. I was like, "You guys know where you're going? Great, I'll follow you." But I eventually ended up having to get my phone out to navigate us, which was fine. And that was another great way for me to have patience. I didn't need to be the boss in that moment. I was just enjoying looking at the city at night and took some pictures and stuff while we were walking, and we ended up getting back to the condo, and that was great. And then we did dinner as a group. Vaughn had paid for us to get dinner. We went and I got a vegan burger, and they got burgers at a place called Pick. It was voted top burger restaurant in Dubai, which I thought was interesting. And then we watched a movie, and we got back, and it was interesting being with women. So growing up, I didn't have a lot of female friends. Like, I always tried to connect with someone, and I would have like a best friend for a little bit, and then it would fizzle out. So I get along with women, but I don't tend to, like, I guess, surround myself with women. My best friend here in the States is a woman, and my mom and I are really close. But I would say majority of the time I am more friends with males. But this was a really great opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone and to make friends with females. And I ended up having a great time, and I met some connections. And I knew a couple of the girls from other trips, but I made a couple of close friends, and I look forward to the next trip if they come. And we're planning for another trip for next year. And I just I'm excited that I was able to have this opportunity, because even though I was technically in charge, I also was able to enjoy it from just an experience point of view. And so then Monday comes around, it's the other photo shoot. They have a desert photo shoot. And there was a little bit of a tiff that I had to get involved in when a couple of the girls got into an argument, but I was able to resolve it. And I was thankful that I didn't have any arguments. And I explained to the girl, I said, the person you're having an argument with, I could have not liked as well. I could have said, hey, you know what? She's sassy. Like, I'm not going to do it. But I swallowed my pride and I took a step back and I said, what's my part in this? Why is it affecting me? And I ended up saving myself from having uncomfortable drama. And I didn't have any drama that weekend. I was involved in other people's drama, but my personal drama didn't exist. And she unfortunately was not emotionally mature enough to hear that from me. But the other girls who heard me talking to her were like, that was really cool that you gave your experience and you were trying to help her and save her from herself. I said, yeah, because in the day, I want all of you to be able to come back. But your first impressions and just impressions in general will make or break you coming back. And unfortunately, that girl is not welcome back to our next trip because of the drama she created. And just how you present yourself and how you carry yourself it goes a long way. And if you're in an opportunity that is once in a lifetime, don't mess it up. Like, don't put yourself above other people. Like, be able to check yourself and recognize what's your part in problems or in interactions. And I think that will save you a lot of hurt and can really protect your peace. The whole time that we had this trip, the day I was like, I'm protecting my peace. You guys want to have drama? You want to have issues, you want to go back and forth, you want to yell at each other, that's fine. I'm going to protect my peace. I will get in the middle of you guys. I might raise my voice. I might tell you to check yourself, but I'm going to protect my peace. I'm going to enjoy this trip because we all got here. We're all here on the same trip. We're all here like doing the same thing. Like, no one's better than each other. Like, no one's bigger or more important. And I think that was really cool for me to recognize that I have grown so much in that, because there was probably a person that I was in the past who would have just gotten involved in the drama or who wouldn't have cared at all. And I'm thankful that I've changed to who I am today. And it really did show me it's a beautiful part of who I am. And I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for the girls that are involved in that. Anyway, so those girls, they had their desert trip, gorgeous pictures. And then the rest of us, we wanted to go to the desert in the afternoon because we weren't able to go with them. So this is when I met the tour guide. So me and his name is Hashem, and he owns a tour guide company. And he picked us up. So we met at a condo downtown. Vaughn had a couple of friends that were going already, so we joined their group. It was a husband and wife. And it was so much fun. So we drove out. It was about an hour to the desert, and it was so cool. We got there. The first thing they did was they have us wrap our heads for the desert so we don't get sand in your face. And a couple of the girls wanted to do the camel ride. I didn't want to exploit animals. Anytime there's like something that involves like riding animals, like unless it's horses, because horses have sometimes a different connection, I'm just not going to do it. So I'd already told the girls, like, hey, like, I'm going to stick back and I'm going to talk to the people who are handling the animals and I'm going to learn about them. And so me and my camel, we just sat and chatted with the guy who was with him. And I found out that they swap out the camels. So some of the other tour guide places, it's like 300 people in a line, and it's like you're on there for 30 seconds and you get off, and the camels are not treated very well, and it's just long out in the sun all day. Whereas where we went, we had gotten there, so they have the morning time, so the camels are there for a couple hours in the morning, and then they have an entire break until the evening time, and then they're out again, and they swap the camels out. So there's one camel that's just for photos, gets to lay down, and then they have a couple camels that are for rides, and the ride is just like 5 minutes around, and then they come back. And they have water, and they put a bag over their face that has hay in it for them to eat. And so I asked them, they've had them since they were babies, and they get to stay there with their family, and they raise them from babies. And it was really cool to experience that. And then we did something called we did ATV, and I didn't do ATV because it was so hot. I didn't want to get sick. And then we did something called dune bashing, and I knew I needed to sit in the front seat because I'd already been kind of nauseous from the car ride because I had sat in the back. And dune bashing is where they change the tire pressure and you basically go super fast on the sand in the desert. And it was a really cool experience. We had told Hashem that we didn't want to go fast, so he had us go slower. He's like, you know that you're safe when I don't tell you to put your seatbelts on. If this was real dune bashing, you'd be putting your seatbelts on, and otherwise you'd be flying around the car. And one of the girls ended up, she got a little sick, but we had to stop the car, but thankfully she like was fine after. But I wanted to take that time while I was in the front seat to talk to the tour guide about the culture. So my first thing was like, okay, I want to know being gay is illegal in Dubai, but I want to know what happens if you see that. So what I found is you can be gay in secret. So you at home, you can do whatever you want. They don't come and like knock on your door. If you are in public, so you can men and women, men and men, women and women can hold hands. A lot of times if you see men holding hands in the public, it's with their cousin or their brother or their friend. And he goes, but if there's like displays of affection, like kissing or like nudity or anything like that, you get a warning from the government or security or whoever. And if you keep doing it, then that's when you get arrested and you go to jail. He goes, very rarely do people like die because of it. And if you do get something happens, like if you steal or whatever, then they do a 15-person firing squad. So there's 15 guns and then one will have a bullet. And then that's how you die, is by firing squad. And it's very like it's a ritual that they do. It's not just willy-nilly. They're not just out here killing people or chopping people's hands off. And women can go to jail, men can go to jail. It's just like here. Obviously, it's very sad that people can't live their life out in public, but the reason he had explained to me was they're very family oriented. So family is very important. So when you are younger, the importance is having your parents as the main focus. And so parents and grandparents. So he had mentioned that even though he is out of the house and he's not married, he's still single. There's 7 kids in his family. He's the third from the bottom, the third youngest. He mentioned that he still like he sends money back to his parents and he sees them and he hangs out with his family a lot. And so they encourage having families and kids. And so unfortunately, because homosexuality is not allowed in public, it is illegal. And so that that's just their culture, and I'm saddened by that, but I was glad to at least know that they don't just go hunt them down or try to find them from their home. Like it's more about the public displays. It has to do a lot with the children, if it's around children, and things like that. And then my other biggest question was the women. I said, so we have a stereotype here in America where we think that every Islamic country and Muslim country has like hates women. And he goes, no, women are sacred. Women are the goddesses of our country. Women get to choose. So women can choose to wear burqas. So that's the full outfit with the hijab and everything. Women get to choose if they wear that. Women can choose to work. If they want to work, they can. The husband still has to provide, but they're allowed to work. He said 99% of the men do not have multiple wives. He said if you see someone in a mall with like 4 women, they're probably his sisters, not his wives. Very rarely as you have multiple wives, not at least not in Dubai. He said the women go to school, the women can work, can do whatever they want. They can go out, they can he said once they get married though, it's different. So when you're married, you and your husband can go to a restaurant or you can go out or you can do events, but you don't go to the club. That's considered like very, I guess, disrespectful to the relationship that you have in their religion. And he said there's difference. So there's religion and then there's new generation is how he described it to me. So in religion, typically the woman would stay home, but she gets to choose. In both religion and new generation, the woman has to tell her parents she wants to marry the man. She's not forced to marry anyone. So she would go to her parents and she'd be like, hey, I want to marry so and so. Or if it's an arranged marriage, they have to agree to the marriage. So if the woman is he told me it's kind of like a secret. So like you see a woman in a full burqa, it's like a secret. Like you want to know what she looks like. And so they can cook together and they can prepare meals together before they get married and they can decide if they do want to get married. But then once you're married, it's a lifetime commitment. And divorce is allowed. It's not illegal, but it's very frowned upon. And so one of the girls in the car, she had asked, she goes, would we rather get divorced or would you die? He goes, divorce is very common. It's not like America, but it does still happen. He goes, but the goal in our country is that you stay married forever. So they want you to really care about the person you're marrying or at least be invested in that. And family, like I said before, is very important. So I was really grateful that I was able to ask those questions because I didn't know. Like we know our research and I had a friend that lived in Dubai. And what's funny is when I was a kid, so my 8th grade year, we were planning on moving to Abu Dhabi. So that was kind of ironic that it didn't working out because it didn't work out because like animals and things like that and the school that they needed me to go to didn't work out with my family. But it was funny that full circle, here I am coming back to a country that I might have moved to for high school. And so it was just a really wonderful experience. We had the tour, then we went to a dinner, so there was, like, a show, so they had, like, dancers, they had fire, they had a belly dance they had a couple belly dancers, and then we got free henna, and then they had a beautiful buffet dinner that was yummy food, and then he drove us back to the meetup place, and we back to our condo, and it was just a really, really, really fun day. And then the final day, so we, were woke up, did breakfast, and then we kinda packed up, and then we were going to the yacht. And we had gotten the wrong so unfortunately in Dubai, the addresses are not normal address. It's not like 51st Street. It's kind of some of it, there's no number, sometimes it's just streets. And so we had gone to the Dubai Marina. We needed to go to the harbor. And so they're all one water, but they're all different locations. So I'd gotten there early, so we were supposed to leave at 11. We got there at 10:30. But then we had a text spawn and we're like, "Where are you guys at?" So we're texting the group chat. "Can you guys send us location?" They kept sending us Google Maps. My Google Maps is in Arabic. Finally, we were able to get a pin from one of the other people, and we finally get to the harbor, and that was such a fun experience. And the water is so beautiful, and so this was my second time on the water there. Like I said, this time in the yacht, and it was a really, really fun. I mean, they had really good food. They had vegan burgers and kebab, not kebab. I guess technically it would be kebab, with corn and veggies and a salad and edamame for me and the other vegan person. And so that was a really fun experience. And then when we got back to the port, me and Whitney ended up going to the souk. So the gold souk is where it's kind of like it's just a giant market, and they wheel and deal, and they have gold and things like that. And we got a couple of souvenirs. Funnily enough, our $1 is $3.68 AED. I was expecting a lot of things to be cheap. Food was kind of expensive, surprisingly. So, like, for instance, when we went to one of the nights, late nights, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings. So it was just like right by, and nothing else was open. And so I got curly fries. Me and Whitney each got a drink, and then she got a quesadilla. It was 45 US dollars. So I was like, it was like 120 AD. So I was surprised by that, but then other places would be super cheap. So when I got vegan burger at Pick, it was 68 AED, which was like $15. So the money thing was very interesting. And then a lot of the market, they had kiosks like close to our condo because we were on the strip of the beach, JBR. And they, of course, want to wheel and deal you and upcharge. So that was more expensive. So my scarf was too expensive. It was 150 AED, which is like, like I said, like $50. But then when we went on the tour, it was 20 AED. So I definitely overpaid. But thankfully, it was a scarf that I couldn't have gotten there because it was like thick and matched my dress. But it was interesting money because some things were super cheap and some things were not cheap. Like I got perfume, like one perfume, and he gave me 3 free perfumes, and things like that happened a lot. And you could wheel and deal. And women are royalty there, so they have an app that you can download, and if you get accepted, it's tied to like your social media. They'll like give you like free massages or free dinner, or like you go to a club and they'll give you like bottle service as long as you like stay for 2 hours and take pictures. And so it was very interesting, like seeing the aspect, like women are treated much higher than men are treated. Not that men are treated badly, but you could tell. And we were actually told by someone that we met that at the clubs sometimes they have prostitutes. The men will ask like the girl, basically like renting the girls, which I thought was crazy, but the women work for themselves. So it's not like here in America where they might have like someone they're working for and giving them money to. Like that was probably the strangest thing and the most like interesting thing for me. And these are like high class, so, like starting at like $1,000 up to like $20,000, and they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I thought that was really interesting because that's like the underbelly seedy part. And every country has like bad stuff. Like here in America, we have all kinds of bad stuff. Definitely worse than what I heard about Dubai. That was probably like the worst thing that I heard. And then after we went to at the souk, that's when I like found out that my flight was the wrong day and I had to change it. Thankfully, it was only like a $40 change, and that was fairly simple. And then we got back to the condo, finished up packing, went out to this dinner at a Turkish restaurant, had the most beautiful conversation. I ended up crying and just really appreciated the talk with the other women and life people that I plan on having for lifelong as friends. It was just beautiful. And then we had our flight back, and that went smoothly. And, I'm grateful for these opportunities that I have, and for travel in general, and for new countries. If you guys have the opportunity to leave the country, please do. Please get out of your city, get out of your state. I have a lot of friends back from where I went to high school in Nebraska, and they're all still there. My first time out of the country, I was 14, went to Canada for the summer. Everyone was like, "Aren't you scared?" And I was like, "No." And it was my first time on a plane. I went by myself, first time out of the country, all in one. And I love my life. And I can't imagine not having this, and I'm grateful that I had those opportunities. I didn't grow up wealthy. My mom was a major saver, but she knew that those opportunities were really important, and so she saved and she would invest in my brother and I, and I'm really grateful for my parents for that. And now I invest in myself, and I encourage all of you to invest in yourself and for travels. But yeah, I just wanted to get on here, chat about Dubai. I hope you guys enjoy living vicariously through me. And yeah, definitely get out of the country. If you are interested in seeing more, follow me on at joyful.adventures on Instagram, JOIFUL. And I have all kinds of videos and fun photos of me with the camels and everyone. And yeah, but thank you so much for listening or watching. I hope you guys have the most amazing rest of your week. And remember, you're loved and you're worthy of that love. All right. Bye, guys.